In this writing assignment, we're going to write a research report, a research paper. This is something that AI cannot do. I've tried to get AI to do the assignment. No, AI doesn't do a proper job. I'm going to explain the research to you and show you how to write about it. Last time, in my last video, I showed the key components of the paper. All research reports have the same structure. You have the title page. This is APA style title page. Then you have the main body. The main body would include the introduction. In APA style, we don't use the word introduction. We use the title as a de facto introduction. Then the methods, the results, discussions, references. The first step in doing the assignment is actually understanding the research. You're going to write about research. You're going to write a research paper, a research report, and then what is the research? Do you understand the research? That is step one. During the class discussions, I explained the research in detail. And I showed you the research materials and the research procedure. You have 39 participants. These participants are undergraduate students at an American university, University of Wisconsin. They were attending a general psychology class. A general psychology class is very much the same as Psychology 100. The students, the participants, received the research materials in writing. The research materials had two versions, version A and version B. The researchers mixed up version A and version B and randomly distributed the materials to the students in the class. This means that the 39 students were randomly given version A or version B. They were randomly assigned to two groups or two treatment conditions. There are two treatment conditions. The two treatment conditions differ in the materials they received. In the materials, all participants had the same instructions. The instruction tells the students to go over the materials in the order they were given. Do not skip forward. Do not go back. Do not write your names or leave any ID marks on the questionnaire. The responses are anonymous. The students' privacy were protected. Version A and version B had two parts, part 1, part 2. Part 1 differed between the two versions. Part 2, the same between the two versions. Let's look at part 2 first. Part 2, Person Perception Questionnaire. In this questionnaire, students were asked to read a description about the person Joe and answer questions about their perception of Joe. Here's a description of Joe. Joe has been addicted to methamphetamine for 5 years. He was recently arrested and lost his job. Methamphetamine was illegal. While he was in jail, Joe was ordered by the court to complete a rehab program. Due to lack of funding from the government, the rehab program is very short and does very little to prevent the use of illegal drugs in the future. Quite predictably, after Joe was released, he immediately started using drugs again. Now he's unemployed and lives in a homeless shelter. In order to finance his drug habit, he sells methamphetamines to other addicts. This was the story about Joe, a fictional character. Now, please answer the following questions about your perception of Joe. Number 1, who do you feel is to blame for Joe's current situation? Is it Joe himself, or is it his environment, such as his family, friends, community, society at large? You have this rating scale from 1 to 7. 1 means you blame Joe himself. 7 means you blame the environment. The midpoint 4. The midpoint means I don't know. In the data analysis, this item was reverse scored, so that the higher the number, the more blame placed on himself, Joe. Now in the original version, the lower the number, the greater the blame placed on Joe himself. In the data analysis, these were reversed. The higher the number, the more blame on Joe. If I choose 1, well, if I choose 1 here on the questionnaire, in the data analysis, my score will be 7. That means I blame Joe himself. The second question, as a society, what do you think is the most appropriate thing to do about Joe's addiction and his dealing in drugs? 1 means punish him. 7 means help him. Which number would you choose? The higher the number you choose, the more likely you're going to help him, or the more willing you are to help him. The lower the number you choose, the more you're willing to punish him. Part 2 was identical between version A and version B. In version A and version B, students read the same person, Joe, the same Joe. Same Joe, he uses meth and he deals in drugs. The questions are the same too. Do you blame Joe himself, or do you blame Joe's environment? And do you think that society should help Joe or punish Joe? Part 1 differed between the two versions. Part 1 for version A, with this personal experience survey. In version A, students are asked to think about time in your life when you encountered a person in need of help from you, but you failed to offer help. Think about and describe that situation with as much details as you can. Think about and describe in the space below the person who was seeking help from you, how you treated, how that event made you feel. Please take 5 minutes to complete the task. I can imagine I am the participant. If I'm a participant, I will have to think about the situation where I rejected somebody, or I refused to help somebody in need, and write about it. Well, can I think about a situation like this? I can think that one time I was in Vancouver, downtown Vancouver. A person who appeared to be unhoused or same homeless individual was asking me for help. He got a coffee mug. He asked me to spare $1 so he could get some food. But I did not offer help. What did I do? I hurried away. I would kind of rush by him because I was in a really big hurry. How did it make me feel? Well, I feel not good about it. I feel that I was really not as generous as I wish I could be. I feel a little bit guilty. It was not good feeling. This was version A. In version A, first participants would remember such a situation of not being able to help somebody. And then you read about Joe. He used drugs and he was in prison, and now he sells drugs. And you indicate your attitude to Joe. Do you blame Joe himself? Or do you blame Joe's environment? This is an attribution question. What's your causal attribution for Joe's behavior? Internal attribution, you blame Joe himself. If you make external attribution, you think the environment is responsible for his behavior and his outcome. Version B. The first part is different from version A. In the first part 1 of version B, the participants were asked to think about the time in your life when you had an opportunity to improve your academic achievement, but failed to take advantage of the opportunity. Think about and describe that situation with as much detail as you can. Think about and describe in the space below the situation and the opportunities it offered for learning a new skill and knowledge, how you reacted, and how that event made you feel. Take 5 minutes to complete the task. If I imagine I am a participant in version B, I will have to think about such a situation. Well, can I think about a situation where I was really kind of not motivated to improve my academic skills? Maybe I think about the time I missed a class, I missed an assignment, and something like that. So you write about a failure in academic achievement. After that, the version B participant would also read Joe and answer questions about their attitude toward Joe. What's your attribution to Joe's behavior? You blame himself, or you blame his environment. And then what should society do about Joe? Punish him or help him? Wow, I'm kind of missing a word here. So here, help him. 7 is help him. 1 is punish him. The higher the number, the more willingness to help. This is what happened in the study. In your writing, you need to write about the background of the study. First, in the introduction section, you need to explain what was the research issue. And why it is important. You also need to write about what was the theory. Why? It is a theory should be reasonable. And then the next part is from the theory, you get the hypothesis. What was the prediction based on your theory? And then the last part of the introduction be overview of the current study. I would like to use word study. Well, these are the key components of the introduction. You can turn these outlines into like headings, research issue. The research issue and the theory tested in the paper. Theory, hypothesis, overview of current study. In APA style, I'm making the heading. This level 1 heading. Under level 1 heading, I have level 2 headings. Level 2 heading in APA style, you flash to the left, and bold print, and certain letters are capitalized. Title, capitalization. Now you can fill out the details of each section. Each section under each heading. Research issue. What was research issue? I will give you some keywords, and you can put them together and compose your research issue. One keyword was like a blame. Blame. If you blame Joe for his problems, you're less willing to help him. And you think about the two conditions, version A and version B. What's the difference between version A and version B? Both version A and version B ask participants to provide the attitude toward Joe. Do you blame him? And do you blame the environment? And then Do you want to help him or do you want to punish him? Part of the issue that if you blame a person, maybe you are less willing to help the person. Maybe you're more willing to punish him. There should be a relation between blame and help. And then you should elaborate the concepts a little bit. Blame. In social psychology, we talk about attribution. Internal attribution, external attribution, and then we talk about the fundamental attribution error. When you see Joe doing drugs and get into trouble, you automatically make internal attribution. You blame him for his problems. That's a human tendency. This is a tendency of making the fundamental attribution error. If you in the class, we use the example of a car salesperson. You go buy a used car. The dealer treats you really nice. He's nice. Yeah, well, he treats you nicely and very friendly. What attribution you make? You tend to make internal attribution. You think that he's nice to you because he's a nice person. His nice disposition making him being nice to you. But that may be an error. Maybe he just want to make you buy the car. You don't care. You make internal attribution for people's behavior. That's called the fundamental attribution error. There's another term called a belief in the just world. In internal attributions, you blame people for their own misfortune. If you see, but on the other hand, if you see somebody really successful, you give him credit. You think that you make internal attribution to he deserves it. These concepts are relevant to the research issue. Another part of the research issue that help. If you blame people for their misfortune, you're less likely to offer them help. If you blame the victim, reduces help intentions. And how can you reduce people's blame? How can you make people less punitive and more helpful? How can we make people blame less and help more? That is the question. The theory is your answer to the question. What was the theory being tested in the study? In the study between version A and version B, all students indicated their attitude, their blame for Joe's behavior, also indicated how much they want to help him. Between version A and version B, who should blame Joe less and help him more? Version A in version A, the participants thought about their own failure in helping people. They were undermined. They thought about a personal deficit in helping. In version B, the participants thought about their personal deficit or personal failure in academic achievement. Both groups suffered a deficit. They experienced a kind of a failure, but in different domains. In version A, they thought about failure in their helping, being generous, being helpful, being pro-social, being empathetic. But in version B, they thought about a personal failure in academic achievement. Which group should blame Joe less and help Joe more? My prediction is version A. Why? Because in version A, students thought about the personal failure in helping other people. They feel that they feel a bit guilty. They feel not good about themselves in this area, and they feel that they are short. They're not meeting their personal standards, or they're not achieving their ideal self in helping behavior, in being generous. And but in version B, the students were kind of being reminded of a personal deficit in academic achievement, not relevant to helping. So in version A, students should be, in version A, blaming Joe less and helping him would be useful for making the participant feel better about being generous themselves. This effect is not in version B. We can formulate this idea into a theory statement. How do you phrase the theory? When people are undermined in achieving their ideal self-image of being generous, sympathetic, pro-social, use a few similar words, and altruistic. When they are undermined in this area, they are less likely to blame a person for his own failure. You don't judge people. Who are you to judge Joe? You have some personal deficits in being generous too, and his own failure, and more likely or more willing to help that person. Why? Because it's going to be making it reasonable. Why is this theory reasonable? Because not blaming we can call it the person, the victim, and helping the victim is useful for restoring the ideal self-image of, well, I would say one's ideal. Self-image being generous and altruistic. You have to polish it. You have to polish it again and again. And you may divide the sentences into several sentences. And more importantly, you need to elaborate. Elaborate. The theory that when people are undermined, when they are reminded of their failure in achieving their ideal self, of being generous, sympathetic, altruistic, they're less likely to blame a person for his own failure and more willing to help him. That is the gist. How would you have to elaborate this statement? The first point of need elaboration is that, well, do people really care about being generous? Do people really care about being helpful? Is it important part of your ideal self? For most, well, this is worth discussion. In most societies, there's a norm, social norm. And you need to talk about the social norm of social responsibility norm. When you see some people suffer, you should be sympathetic. You should offer help. You don't let people die. You don't let people suffer. And that is ruthless. And this kind of social norm creates a need to view oneself as being generous. Being generous is part of being a good person. It's part of being a decent person. Well, self-standard, self-ideal. Another point you need to elaborate that when people fall short of their personal standard, yeah, what they do, they feel, well, you can see that they feel uncomfortable. They feel the need to compensate. It means that they want to kind of make up for the deficit. And then, where the next step of the logic? Blaming people less and helping more provides opportunities for people to compensate for their personal deficit. In helping in their helping domain, and restore your ideal self-image. That'd be a theory statement. You have to tinker with it. You have to write it in your own words. Don't copy and paste my writing. And here you need a citation, relevant research. You need to cite one study, one empirical relevant. It doesn't have to talk about this particular issue, but something relevant to the issue and theory. If you go back to my instructions, you have the outline of the research paper, and here you have the requirement. You review one empirical research paper found in the psychology literature that is relevant to the research issue. The reason that you need to cite or to review an article is that you show the research issue is relevant. It is part of psychological research. It is connected to the literature. Now it is the time to do the literature search. Let's go to the library, and you go to your database. One tip is that you don't do your search here. You do not do your search right in the library. No, this is not a good idea. This search will not give you precise information, give you a lot of irrelevant information. You want to search the psychology literature. You want to use the psychology database. Let's use PsycInfo and Psych articles. Or you have to log in. Well, I want to do the advanced search. What are the keywords? We want to search for research that is related to blame, helping, altruism. The purpose of our research is to reduce blame and increase helping. Blame, well, helping. I mean, helping behavior, helping. Blame the victims. What else? Maybe priming, but I don't want to be too narrow. The more keywords you add, the narrower it is. See if we find something interesting, relevant. You look at the titles first. From a non-traditional moral virtue, victim blame. It doesn't have to be drug use. It doesn't have to be blaming the drug user, drug using. Could be blame and helping with respect to any victims. Stigmatizing beliefs, social behavior. Not really. Intergroup helping. In-group blame. A third-party outgroup blame. This one could be relevant. Blaming bystanders. Well, this one looks relevant. Victim blaming 2.0. Blaming sexualized victims of online harassment lowers bystanders' helping intentions. If the title looks interesting, you read the abstract. If the abstract looks interesting, you have to download the full article. You need to read the full article to do a proper job in reviewing and citing the article. See, this article examines the influence, scenarios, female. Yeah, this one could be relevant. My point is you need to do the literature search. You need to review the article. You found and explain why and how it is relevant to the current study. After you have explained the research issue, the theory, then you are ready for the hypothesis. Or you can kind of play around with the structure a little bit. Maybe sometimes I want to kind of first explain the current study and then explain the hypothesis. This order may make the flow a little bit more smoothly here. What was the overview of the study? American students, Scotch students, they reflected upon either their personal failure or deficit in being generous and help, or reflect upon either their personal failure in being generous and helpful, or personal in academic. Before reporting their attitude toward a fictional character who is a drug addict and a dealer. This was Joe. Before reporting the attitude toward a fictional character who is a drug dealer and addict, and their to help him versus punish him. Their willingness to help him. Actually, this might not be accurate. It's not their personal help. It's society. Society should help or punish him. The support for society to help him versus punish him. You should elaborate this a little bit, but not too much. Make sure that the reader understands what's going on in the study in outline. The details will be given in the methods. Now we're ready for the hypothesis. What's your prediction? We predict, I predict that those participants who were undermined in their helping area would blame the drug using and dealing character more or less than those who were undermined their like academic. That's one prediction. Those who were undermined in helping area would also indicate more support for society to help character compared to those under and in academic achievement. Writing your own words. Don't use these words because these are my writing. You got to express your own ideas. We're done with the introduction. The overview introduction is pretty clear. And then the methods. In this research, the methods are really kind of easy, simple. Participants materials, procedures, methods. That's this is a level 1 heading. Participants, level 2. Materials, level 2. Procedure, level 3. To explain the methods clearly, you need to explain these 3 areas. The participants, you know that, is in the instructions. "39 undergrad students from University of Wisconsin, and they were attending a general psychology class." The materials, version A, version B. You do not copy. Here, I gotta write. Do not copy and paste the materials. Describe them. Describe them in detail. The procedure be easy. Participants, the procedure will be how the students completed the questionnaire. Each participant was randomly given one of the 2 versions, either version A or version B, and they completed that anonymously. In the instructions, they were asked to go through the materials in the order they were given, and they were asked not to provide any names or ID marks on the questionnaire. The procedure. Completed the service. The results. In the results section, you test the hypothesis, two hypotheses. Two hypotheses were tested. One hypothesis was that did those students who were undermined, well, use this term, had been undermined in helping, blame the character less than those undermined in academic. And that's one question you want to answer. Another question you want to answer is that did those students who support strongly than here you have the results. The results of the group statistics. Blame Joe, blame. This is blame reading. Blame Joe, reverse score means that the higher the value, the stronger the blame on Joe. And you report that two groups. One group, those people who were undermined in helping Go, they thought about one time they failed to help other people. How many people there in that group? 20 people in the group. It's just write a narrative. It's don't copy and paste the table. Do not. Table. Oh no, that's the wrong place. That's not in this place. Here you see that N. Well, how many people? 20. Undermined in their helping. On average, their blame score was what was a mean score? Yeah, 4.65 on a scale of 1 to 7 was 4.65. However, well, what was the other group? The other group was the control condition. 19 people were in the control condition. And well, what happened in the control group? Undermined in academic. Their blame was higher or lower? higher. Yeah, the mean was 5.84. Is this difference, yeah, this difference is significant or non-significant? Is it significant or non-significant? Is it big or small? It's not small. 5.84 versus 4.65. The difference was more than 1 point. More than 1 point on a scale of 1 to 7. Not pretty substantial. Was it significant? You look at the next table. Statistical significance. Blame Joe. The two groups differed by 1.19 points. The p-value was 0.015. This was significant. Why? Because it's smaller than 0.05, 5%. You got to explain this, what it means to be statistically significant. What is the difference? 1.19. Is it 1.19? 1.19. The difference between the two groups with the which group has a lower level blame with the experimental placing lower blame control group. This was what we predicted. This was supporting the prediction. The difference statistically significant. Why? It's because P smaller than 0.05. This means that it's unlikely to be due to chance. The difference between the two groups was 1.19. This difference is way above 0, and it is not due to chance. It must be the undermining. The two groups undermined on different areas. That must have produced the difference of 1.19. The next question, did those students who had been undermined in helping support society help the character more strongly than those undermined in academics? The statistics. On helping dimension, 19 students got version A, 19 got version B. The difference is not really big. One group was 5.7, 5.8. One group was 5.4. $19 students given 19 students in the group undermined average. So here their score was 5.79. Yeah, the other group was 5.42, also 19 students. 19 in undermining academics. On average 5.42. The difference small and statistically not. How do you know? What number shows it's not significant? P, what was P value on this one? P value 0.47. 0.47. The mean difference was small. Mean difference of 0.3. It's not small. So how small? 0.3, less than 1 point. 0.37. P, what was the P value? 0.47. 0.47. Or you can simply write a P larger than 0.05. But giving the exact P value looks better. Those were the results. People in the experimental group were less blamed Joe less, but in terms of supporting society for helping Joe, there was not a significant difference. And after that, you just write a discussion. You write discussion, you summarize the results, summarize the finding, and speculate a little bit about the hypothesis. One hypothesis was supported. Students in the experimental condition did blame Joe less than those in the control group. But another hypothesis, in helping, there was not too much difference. Why? You can think about some reasons why there was this disparity in the data, and then you can talk about the potential implications of the finding. How would this finding help us understand people's attitude toward drug addiction, people's support of programs for helping them, rather than blaming them? The last part of the paper would be references. You need only 2 references. One reference you need is the textbook, and then another reference is the paper you reviewed. You don't need more than 2 references. Okay. Yeah. I'll stop here.